Galaxy Quest was a 1999 American science fiction comedy film directed by Dean Parasot and written by David Howard and Robert Gordon. It was written as a parody of classic sci-fi TV shows like... Actually, before I get into this... The year was 1998. And what a year it was. Celine Dion's Heart was going on, and Cher had come out as a true believer in life after love. After decades of hostility, the political parties of Northern Ireland agreed to peace with the Good Friday Agreement. France won the World Cup. Old Bill was up to no good. What's he like? Larry Page and Sergey Brin founded a small startup called Google. Wonder what happened to it. In a remarkable move, Exxon and Mobil merged in order to continue their work in fighting against global warming. The World Health Organization said that the MMR vaccine and autism spectrum disorder have no link, finally ending the idiotic practice of not vaccinating your kids. Seinfeld decided to air its final season, despite being the top show in America. And Pixar Animation was preparing to release their second feature-length computer-animated film, A Bug's Life. All seemed to be smooth sailing for the young, ambitious animation company. They'd seen unprecedented success with their first offering, the charming and fun buddy film Toy Story. All signs pointed to success for their upcoming second feature, but in the distance, there was a challenger emerging. This is Jeffrey Katzenberg. He was the chairman of Walt Disney Studios from 1984 to 1994. He's the man who's generally given the lion's share of the credit for reinvigorating Disney's animation division, in a time that would later be called Disney's Renaissance. He produced classics such as The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. He was doing pretty well. Sadly, however, in 1994, Disney president Frank Wells passed away in a tragic helicopter accident. Up until his death, Wells had been seen as the voice of reason amongst the many egos at the company. As soon as Frank died, Katzenberg started lobbying for his job as president. He was putting himself everywhere in the press, trying to promote himself as the public face of Disney. This angered longtime senior executive and nephew of Walt Disney, Roy Disney. Katzenberg was forced out of the company, a fate which was ominously foreshadowed by a Lion King promotion event that went wrong. Katzenberg had become a victim of the company that he had helped to resurrect. However, he wasn't finished in the animation business yet, and he went on to create DreamWorks Animation. Although before leaving Disney, he made sure to stock up on all the ideas that they had before he left. Through communication with Pixar Studios while he was in the role of chairman of Disney, he was involved in internal talks about an upcoming project, which would eventually become known as Pixar's A Bug's Life. Katzenberg then stayed in contact with the head of Pixar, John Lasseter, even going as far as insisting on knowing when the film was to be released. He then brought the release date of the conspicuously named Ants forward, and ensured that it was released a full month and a half ahead of Pixar's A Bug's Life. Despite this, Ants only grossed $171 million, which is a respectable performance, considering it's their first film. However, it was dwarfed by A Bug's Life, which earned $363 million. So A Bug's Life succeeded in the tug-of-war between a giant Disney-funded animation company and the young upstart studio run by a scorned ex-employee. On the face of it, there does seem to be some copying going on behalf of DreamWorks and Katzenberg. However, this video isn't going to focus on Ants. This video is going to focus on a different DreamWorks film, which has even more in common with A Bug's Life. That's right. This video is about Galaxy Quest. So as I was saying, Galaxy Quest was a 1999 American science fiction comedy film directed by Dean Parasot and written by David Howard and Robert Gordon. It was written as a parody of classic sci-fi TV shows like Star Trek. A Bug's Life, on the other hand, is a 1998 3D animated children's film directed by John Lasseter, co-directed by Andrew Stanton, and written by John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, Joe Ranft, Don McHenry, and Bob Shaw. How on earth did all their hands fit on the keyboard? Now, on the face of it, it would seem that you'd be pretty hard-pressed to find many similarities between the films. I mean, one is about aliens and the other is about ants. One is set in space, and one is set in Earth. However, despite the apparent appearance of differences, there is actually a lot that the films have in common. A frightening amount, actually. So the plot is that a society of like-minded, uniformly dressed individuals are being oppressed by a bigger, stronger species. The bigger, stronger species demands that the society give them some energy-filled spherical balls, or else. In order to defeat the bigger, stronger species, the society enlists the help of who they think are warriors. It turns out, though, they are not warriors, but entertainers. The entertainers have the wrong end of the stick, and think that they're being hired to entertain and not to actually fight. They soon come to realize that the bigger, stronger species and the threat they bring is in fact very real. The entertainers want to abandon ship, but they are persuaded to help. They soon become physically and emotionally wrapped up in the society's struggle and fully commit to help them in their cause. Of course, it all goes wrong when the entertainers are exposed for what they really are. In the end though, the entertainers and the society work together with the help of the specially made flying vessel to defeat the bigger, stronger species. The end. Well, there you go. Galaxy Quest and A Bug's Life are the same film. Case closed. If only it was that easy. In fact, although there are very clearly multiple similarities in the plots of the two films, there is also substantial differences between them, and I'm now going to go through a few different aspects of the film to discuss the similarities and differences in order to truly analyze just how much of a copy Galaxy Quest is of A Bug's Life. It is no surprise that the two films have a very different target audience. A Bug's Life is aimed at young children, and as such the film is very tame and innocent. The crudest that it gets is the moment where a group of flies catcall Francis the Ladybird before realizing that he's male. Whereas Galaxy Quest is rated PG, and as such is aimed at a more mature audience than A Bug's Life, therefore is able to make some more adult jokes. This difference in target audience gives the films very different tones, and helps them stand out from one another despite having so similar a plot. In terms of characters, both films do a good job of developing individual characters with their own motivations and goals. There aren't any exact parallels in characters between the films. No character is exactly like another. Having said that, there are some interesting similarities to note. The closest that Galaxy Quest gets to having a direct counterpart to A Bug's Life's hero, Flick, is Tim Allen's Jason Naismith. He, like Flick, is too enthusiastic for the rest of the group, which leads to him being talked about behind his back. He also, like Flick, convinces the other actors to go and help out the aliens. By the end of the film, Jason Naismith not only comes to respect the other castmates, but earns their respect also. As an interesting side note, I noticed whilst watching Galaxy Quest that Tim Allen plays a spaceman. This is interesting because he also plays a spaceman in Toy Story. However, the two characters are actually the opposite of each other. In Toy Story, as a spaceman, he needs to learn how to be a toy, and in Galaxy Quest, he plays an actor who needs to learn how to be a spaceman. Another clear comparison is Alan Rickman and the Stickman. They are both classically trained actors who believe their roles are beneath them, but by the end, they accept that they are an integral part of the ensemble. Just for the record though, I wouldn't like to be the one who has to play the sword either. And finally, the bad alien guys in Galaxy Quest, well, their leader Saris at least, strike an uncanny resemblance to the antagonists of the Pixar film, The Grasshoppers. I mean, I'd be willing to bet that the aliens were inspired by insects due to the hard shell armor and the extra arm or wing-like structures that they have on their back. I could mention more, but I'd literally only be including it for a single moment in the film. It wouldn't be a true reflection of their characters as a whole. For example, I could claim that Francis the Ladybird is just the eye candy of the circus, as Gwen DeMarco, played by Sigourney Weaver, is for Galaxy Quest. But the moment I mentioned earlier where the flies catcall him would be all I'm basing that off. So I'm sure there's other small similarities in character, but I'm just going to leave it here. Clearly the settings of the two films are very physically different, but there is something to be said for the settings being like one another, or I suppose, opposite to one another. The way I see it is that A Bug's Life takes place in a micro world, a world far smaller than the scale we live in our own lives, whereas Galaxy Quest is set in the macro world, or universe, which is far bigger than the scale we live at. In A Bug's Life, they take ordinary objects like cans of soup and umbrellas and make them into materials that the bug's world is made of. The scale of the human world in A Bug's Life to me felt akin to outer space in Galaxy Quest, which starts on the scale of humans and quickly takes you into the massive world of outer space. Both films, therefore, gave the same feeling of insignificance to the petty squabbles of the main characters, and by the end of the film, they were able to return to their original settings with better attitudes. A few more similarities in setting which I will mention, but I don't have much to say about, is the fact that both films are set in a colony of sorts, and the fact that both films involve scenes backstage of a show, a circus in A Bug's Life and a convention appearance in Galaxy Quest. In my opinion, one of the most important things when it comes to a film being successful is whether or not it portrays its underlying message in an understandable and fulfilling way. This is something that both films managed to do, which is impressive because for films so similar in plot, they have very different messages. At the beginning of Galaxy Quest, the majority of the cast are unfulfilled in their position as former sci-fi TV show stars. Their view is, despite having thousands of adoring fans, that the roles were beneath them, the roles were too minimal, the lead star takes too much of the limelight. They are also somewhat annoyed by the fans believing or acting like the show is real. Throughout the film, they come to learn, however, that what they're doing is valuable, as the experiences they bring to others is valuable, and they should be proud of that. The film ends with the Galaxy Quest TV show being rebooted, but this time the stars appreciate what they are part of. A Bug's Life, on the other hand, focuses more on the colony of ants rather than the circus performers. At the start of the film, the ants are oppressed and enslaved by the grasshoppers, who are bigger and stronger than them. This is a system that's always been in place, and the ants feel that they have no choice in the matter. By the end of the film, however, through the leadership of Flick, the ants come to realize that they're strong as a group, and if they stand up for themselves together, they can fight off the stronger, but fewer in numbers, insects. This is very clearly a wider comment on society in terms of the general population holding more power than the oppressors if they work as a group. This difference of message is probably the most valid argument for the existence of both of these films. Sure, they have similar plots, but they are saying very different things. After I'd written the script and nearly finished editing this video, I came across an article written by Christopher Olsen on the website Galaxy of Geek in May 2012. In the article, he outlined some of the similarities between A Bug's Life and Galaxy Quest, as well as bringing a third similar film into the discussion, the 1986 comedy western directed by John Landis, Three Amigos, in which Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short play three actors who accept an invitation to a Mexican village to perform their on-screen bandit fighter roles, unaware that it is the real thing. In retrospect, I should have thought of this comparison myself, as Three Amigos is a film that I remember watching a few times as a child. I would need to watch it again to be sure if my memory serves me right. I think my opinion of it, compared to the other two films, is pretty much in line with the IMDb ratings. Anyway, I'll leave the link to the article in the description if you want to check it out. It's a good read. I guess the most fitting question when accusing one film of being similar to another is, should both films have been made? Well, I'll give you a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is yes. The long answer is, despite the fact that there are multiple similarities in the two films, I mean, there are a lot. To the point where, when A Bug's Life came out, the producers of Galaxy Quest must have been like... Anyway, despite this, both films managed to very much have their own voice. I mean, the fact that they are different genres alone means that Galaxy Quest, as a sci-fi, could venture into more interesting areas, such as time travel, whereas A Bug's Life is shackled to a certain amount of realism. Not full realism, there still are talking ants, but more realism. Well, more realism than having a device that can rewind time by 13 seconds. So yeah, both films deserve their place, and I can honestly say that I really enjoy both of them. Also, let's be real for a second. Jeffrey Katzenberg had nothing to do with the Galaxy Quest. I just wanted to have an entertaining intro and talk a bit about the tension involved in the productions of A Bug's Life and Ants. I did this in order to establish the reason for comparing A Bug's Life to Galaxy Quest. Who am I kidding? Of course he did! Jeffrey Katzenberg ripped off the idea for A Bug's Life and fed the information to David Howard, who wrote Galaxy Quest. There, I said it. Are you happy now?